Active FM. Radio has never been better.
What is up?
Hey, how you doing?
This is the movie show.
On Active FM.
I'm Sash.
My name's Ryan.
And we are going to be doing a film that was made in the glorious year of 1997.
I remember 97.
I don't remember it. I must be honest. I don't remember. I was there, but I got there in November.
I remember writing the date. I was at school,
Are
obviously.
you serious?
I remember when I used to 1997,
That's incredible.
the
That
date.
is absolutely incredible.
And then the rest was a blur. But I remember the date, writing the date.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't believe it.
Can you believe it? And now we are sitting in 2023.
Talking about a movie that I missed back in
A whole
97.
26 years later. It's crazy. And it took us this long to watch this movie as well.
Yeah.
It's like, what's wrong with us?
It was a film that we were like thinking, it was sort of...
It's been on the long list of be on the movie show movies.
Yeah.
And finally we took it to the top of the list and we did it.
And I think specifically because of Matt Damon, isn't it?
Matt Damon,
Yeah.
that guy, honestly.
He's good.
He is so good.
Yeah.
He really, really, really is so good. And he's such a... Like, you know how sometimes you get these actors and then you like search their filmography and they've done jobs, they're famous, they've done here and there. But like Matt Damon is in the industry, if you understand what I'm saying. Like if you search his filmography on like IMDb and stuff, you'll see he's got writing credits, he's got acting, like a lot of acting credits, like more than most people. He's got, and even an editor credit. Do you know that? He's got an editor credit. Obviously, he's got producer credits. I couldn't find director. I don't think he's directed anything as of yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. And I would definitely be keen for that, like really would be keen for a film directed by Matt Damon. But he really is so good.
Yeah, I think the two films that a lot of people know him for is either Jason Bourne or The Martian.
The Martian.
But most probably Jason Bourne the most because it's just one of those films that, really, I think it's quite a film that that got a lot of people's attention.
Yeah.
So
he was also in Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
With Christian Bale. I loved him in Ford versus Ferrari. I enjoyed him in The Martian as well.
Completely different character as well.
And that's what's nice about him is he's an actor. Like he's the perfect definition, makeup of actor. You really feel like you're watching it was really... So there's actually a very interesting story behind how this film came to be, should I say.
Which is probably one of the reasons why we decided to do this. Because, I mean, you can say, but this is such an old film. Really, what was great? Well, we're about to tell you some of the really interesting and great things about this film.
About Good Will. Oh, yeah, we didn't even mention the name of the film. Yeah. We are doing Good Will Hunting.
In case you clicked on the wrong link.
There we go. So, this film it stars Matt Damon as the lead role and Ben Affleck. And then Robin Williams. Like those are the three like big names. And obviously there's what's his name?
A few other characters.
Ben Affleck. Stellan Skarsgård.
Ben Affleck's brother's in here.
Yes, Casey Affleck. I did not realize he's an actor. And you know how many films he's been in? He's in Interstellar. He's in Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Like he's actually shame. I feel like when you're in your brother's shadow, he really is shame. But sorry, Casey Affleck. We will take more notice of you from now on.
Great.
But this film, so Ben Affleck and Matt Damon met. Matt Damon was 10 years old. Ben Affleck was 8 years old. That's when the two of them met. But then in high schools, when they really, really became like good friends, so they grew up together. They literally are like best friends, like literally are best friends.
Yeah.
And they both obviously went into acting. And if you actually search, I think it's on Vanity Fair. There's a video. You know how they do those like career videos for actors? They've done one with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon together, where they actually discuss their career together because they've done a lot of work together. And before Good Will Hunting, I think there were 2 or 3 projects that they were acting in. The first one, they were 2 extras out of like a crowd of 30,000 people, or 3,000 people or something like that, but they were 2 extras in that crowd. And then they got like odd bits and ends here, but like this Good Will Hunting is the film that really, really made them famous, and it was obviously their first Oscar for Matt Damon, it was his first in a lead role, and then for the both of them together, they won Best Screenplay. Yes, I just said that. 2 actors won Best Screenplay. So how this film came into being was Ben Affleck and Matt Damon were struggling to get work. They were 2 broke dudes trying to become actors, and they were struggling to get work. And so the concept behind this film was kind of like a portfolio. So, like nowadays you'll just go and create a website or a YouTube channel, or, you'll do that. In those days, obviously, like social media and that wasn't a thing. So their aim was just to get this on a video cassette tape that they could take to people and show them their work. So that's how this film started. But even before that, when Matt Damon was in his 5th year at Harvard, he was in a playwriting class, and the culmination of it was to write a 1-act play. And he actually wrote the first act to this movie. And he still went up to his professor at the time and said, you can fail me because I didn't actually follow the assignment correctly. But I actually think that this is the start of a very good film. And it was the first act of Good Will Hunting. And the professor was so impressed that he gave him an A+ and told him to keep going with it. And because of the response from the professor, he then actually went to Ben Affleck, who's his best friend, and said, listen, I've started writing this. I've nowhere, but I don't know where to go from here. Ben Affleck read it and said, I also don't know where to go from here, but I think we should work on it together. And so they ended up writing the script together. But apparently it took long. It was like a 5-year process or something.
Did you hear what the original story was, what this film's original story was?
I know Matt Damon wanted to be a, was it physics? Because in the film he's a maths genius.
Yeah.
But that's all that's it.
Well, from what I heard originally, it was this guy who was a genius, as he was, but he was working for the government.
Oh,
basically.
Flip.
Yeah, and then through rewriting and just really trying to get it nailed down with Ben Affleck, they then...
I know that also, like, that they brought themselves into the writing process and the scripts, because I think both of their parents, or were janitors at either Harvard or some university in America. I know that Robin Williams' character, they both wrote it based on either one of their parents. So like they were really inspired by like real life.
There was an actor.
People.
There was an actor in the one film that we did. What is it? Something Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs. And the one actor that was hired in there was specifically so that they could nail the movie. Well, Robin Williams was that character. Well, that actor for this film.
So at the time, obviously you had big production companies, and then you had little people like Quentin Tarantino and Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and people like that who were trying to get into the industry. And so instead of now trying to go to these big studios, what they ended up doing is just making indie films. So for example, Reservoir Dogs was Quentin Tarantino's indie film that made him who we know him as today. But also when he wrote it, the reason, I can't remember who it was again as well, but that actor brought in so much funding for the film. And so they were like, we want to do that. So when they wrote Robin Williams' character, I think his name was Sean, they wrote that character knowing that this character is going to be, we're going to cast a big, huge name, and then studios are going to want to fund it because this huge name has been cast, and that will basically get us like financing for the film. And I know when they were writing it, possible ideas that they had in mind was Morgan Freeman and Denzel Washington. So they were, but they kind of kept it open. Like they still said because obviously Robin Williams' character and Matt Damon's character in the film both come from Boston, the same spot in Boston. So that's why they can relate a lot. If Morgan Freeman or Denzel Washington was cast, what they then would have done is like almost played on the whole racial tension. And then if they wanted like Meryl Streep, if she got cast, they would have then, instead of having a father-son relationship going, they would have had a mother-son relationship going. So they said they kind of like, they kept it open for like any possible, like any, just as long as it was this big actor that could come in and could get them good financing for their film, they were happy. And Robin Williams was the the lucky man that got to
Yeah.
be in this film.
Yeah.
And he actually read the script and he was like, I'd be crazy not to do it.
Yeah.
Like he was completely blown away by the
Yeah.
script.
It was on Saturday. We as a family we did the whole, you know, when you sort of movie surf and you look for a good film.
Yes.
And it was actually a very sad evening because the movie that we originally picked. So we had choices, and one of them was Grown Ups, quite a comedy. A fun movie. We were like, it looks like one of those films. It's going to be like the usual.
Yeah.
We're looking for a good film. Then we found the one film. The trailer looked good because it looked very, like a mysterious type of thing. We watched it. We were bored, so bored, because the movie just like rolled on, and it had some good actors in it.
Oh, serious?
Well, yeah. And then we got to the end, and then when we finished it, and you know Netflix, when you exit the film, you go back to, and then in the top bar is a film, and usually the trailer starts playing, and it was the Grown Ups. And just when the trailer started, we were like so full of so much regret. We were like,
why did?
Because it was like an epic moment. Yeah. So when I watched this film, I was like, yes. Because this film is brilliant.
No, it is brilliant.
I enjoyed it. Just know that when you watch this film, you're going to be hooked. And you're going to, because like, I also watched the film, it was late at night when I watched this film. And I thought to myself, okay, now usually when it gets that late, if it's that bad, especially when you got a lot of things happening the next day, you're like, okay, I might just want to just skip a couple, just see what, depending on the film. This movie, I was just like, it was late. I knew I was going to go to bed really late, and I just said, it's fine.
I'm going to watch it.
I'm actually going to watch it because I can't not watch this film.
Yeah.
So it was
the crazy
great.
part about this film as well is it's not a very complicated film in that it's basically just a whole bunch of people sitting in different rooms having conversations. If you think about the film, like down to like a very like minimalistic level, right? This film, that's all it is. And the reason was Matt Damon and Ben Affleck knew they weren't going to have a big budget, so they didn't want to like go crazy, have car chases, because I mean they're not going to be able to afford that. So literally, it's just these characters going through life. It's obviously an interesting concept. Like, what if this math genius became a janitor at a?
I think he was a very interesting character.
No, he was a very interesting character.
And then also what made it more interesting was the interaction between the doctor, the guy who Sean, who between him and how he's going to kind of get try and bond with this boy and help him and sort him out. And then on top of that, at the end of the film, it's not like it really even sticks. So it's not like the usual film where they end and they're best friends for life, and they ended up moving to the same city, and he ended up being this man's best friend. And it was nothing like that. It was absolutely just true life and real. So
no, it was really, really cool.
Apparently in the original plot, there was something, I don't know if it was towards like just before production that it changed, but originally the end of the film they were supposed to kind of go off together.
Oh, serious?
Those two. And then someone suggested that Will rather go back for the girl, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, like the whole way they ended it. And I thought this was brilliant. So the last line of the movie, Robin Williams says, he stole my line.
Yeah.
Like that's literally the last line of the movie. And apparently with that scene, I don't even think they had him speaking. Like
apparently we're supposed to just kind of like gaze and be like, oh,
no,
okay.
But what happened was they kept rolling, and Robin Williams would literally just, like, they did 69 takes of him he'd read it, say a line and walk back in, and then walk back out, read it, say a line, and eventually, like, one of the takes he said, he stole my line. And at that point, Matt Damon was there next to the director because Matt Damon reads out what he wrote to him, but they wanted it to be like he was almost responding to the letter. So they actually got Matt Damon there that day to say the line, obviously not on screen. He was behind camera. But at that point, he just shook the director because they knew, like, this is the line. Like, this was it. Like, this is the...
Brilliant.
That was pretty cool. And also, I think it was an amazing experience for Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, because apparently on the first day that they started shooting, they weren't acting that day. But they were on set, and apparently when they started, they just like burst into tears. Like,
is it?
Because I think also it was relief because they'd been working on this for so long, and like what I think was Ben Affleck described it as, you know how like climbing Mount Everest, when you get to the top, like that feeling of relief, like we actually finally made, after all of the sweats, after all of the tears, after all of the hard work.
It's actually weird because so if you actually read how the script got wrestled between a lot of production companies, because people wanted to replace them, they actually didn't want Ben and Matt as the actors.
Yeah,
they were looking more at other actors, but then finally the production company that actually bought it out, which was not Miramax Films,
it was Weinstein, wasn't it?
That one, they bought it because he read the script and they bought it, and then obviously because the script had already been bought. Thank you. Thank you. Had already been bought, and they were going now into like kind of a production kind of stage, and they were saying, no, we don't want Matt Damon and Ben. Yeah, Matt and Ben. There you go, Matt and Ben from now on, or Ben and Matt, to be the actors, and they wanted them as the actors, but they already bought the script. But then eventually,
Weinstein, the company,
they bought it, and they allowed them to. And I would have imagined that by the time you get there, all the fight, you're kind of not in the mood anymore.
Yeah, you're just like,
oh, well, let's just make this stupid movie. But hearing that, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So in other words, they were like, yes, we like finally get to do it. We
finally made it. Yeah.
Exactly.
I know that when they wrote it, they said they wrote it and they wrote those two characters for them. It's kind of like what the directors of Stranger Things did. They wrote Stranger Things, and the only condition they had when going to production companies with the script was, we want to direct it. Which, if you've never made anything before, production companies are not going to let you direct something. Like, they're just not, especially if you're no one. Like, who are you and why are you coming and saying? But Netflix was the only company that agreed to that. So that's why Netflix got to produce Stranger Things. But I read this, it was crazy. So what happened was they sent the script to obviously different production companies, and quite a few responded. But on page 60, like in the middle of the script, for no apparent reason, like there's no reason for it at all, they wrote a sex scene between the two professors, right? Which are straight men. In the film, they're straight.
So
they're not gay.
Make sense.
So it makes no sense. And the reason they did that, so when Harvey Weinstein phoned them, he's like, it's cool, I want to make the film, but the production company's Miramax, that's his production company. But he was like, I only have one big note on the script, and it's on page 60. And he was like, the two professors who are both straight men have a sex scene. What the hell is that? And the reason Ben Affleck and Matt Damon wrote that in was to see who would read the scripts and who hadn't read the scripts. Because if they read the scripts, that scene didn't make any sense. So they would have been like, what's happening on page 60? But because the other production companies didn't mention it.
They didn't even query about it.
They were like, they haven't read the script.
No wonder why they didn't want to put Ben and Matt.
As the, And then that's why they went with Harvey Weinstein's production company, because he was the only like producer or the only person that actually read the scripts. And it's very clever though. That's a very clever idea.
That is smart, yeah.
So if you're an aspiring writer, director, actor, this is really like one of the ways to get into the industry. It's to write a script, because you're showing off what you can do. And then obviously if you want to get more into, because writers you can write a script and sell it, and then like that's it, you get paid, good job, woohoo. Or like if you're wanting to go further than that, you can be like, I want to write it, but I want to be the cinematographer, or I want to write it, but I want to be the actor.
Involved,
like I want this role. You get the script, but you get me in this role. And I mean, like, even to pair up with someone,
and it's for a specific reason, especially if you write something and you want it, you want it to come across the way that you wrote it.
Yeah. But I also think for them with this, it wasn't that they wanted to write a script. It was that they wanted to show off their acting, and they weren't getting breaks. So then they decided, you know what, we're going to give ourselves a break.
We'll just write our own damn script.
We'll write our own script, and then, and this film, like I said, went on to win many Oscars.
Yeah.
In fact, it's quite a cool story. Matt Damon and both Ben Affleck share how when they were filming Good Will Hunting, it was during the previous year's Oscars, and they were on set in a hotel room. They were all betting on who was going to win that year, and that they watched the whole thing, and it was really cool. And the next year, they were sitting in the front of the Oscars, winning
man.
But so like it was it was a crazy ride for them because of how they But so Matt Damon became the fourth person to be nominated for both acting and writing in the same year. So he got nominated for lead role and for writing, following Charles Chaplin for The Great Dictator 1940. So in 1940, Charles Chaplin became, I'm guessing that's Charlie Chaplin, but he's Charles Chaplin.
Yeah.
He wrote and acted in Great Dictator. Orson Welles for Citizen Kane wrote and directed in 1941, and Sylvester Stallone for Rocky in 1976. Rocky also had the same one. He wrote Rocky and said, I'm going to star in, and he still had to sell his dog because he had no money.
Do you remember that?
And then after he became super famous and rich, he went and bought his dog back. So that was pretty cool. But then at the time, Ben Affleck was 25 when he won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, making him the youngest person ever to win the award. And Matt Damon was 27 and is the second youngest person to win the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay.
Way to go.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Shame, still in the days when you could actually, get good awards and put in all. Nowadays.
Yeah, nowadays it's politics and...
It's whack now.
But now how crazy is this? This just proves how famous Robin Williams was. So when Robin Williams and Matt Damon were shooting the scene on the bench in the public garden, it seems like they were the only people in the park. Like there weren't that many people on screen. However, due to Williams being a massive star at one point, over 3,000 people were on location watching that scene. How crazy is that?
Like behind them.
Yeah, just because Robin Williams was there.
How many?
3,000 people.
Imagine keeping 3,000 people quiet.
I know, right? But you know what's sad about that also is Robin Williams committed suicide.
Yeah.
Which just proves that, like, if you're chasing fame, you could be someone who will cause 3,000 people to come to a park just to watch you film a scene. Like, they probably couldn't even hear him because, like, there's no microphones or anything, It's just like seeing him off in the distance.
Yeah.
Like, literally. And then he still commits to suicide, which is... And then this was a funny fact. I thought that this was actually quite funny. So Minnie Driver's character is Skylar, who's Matt Damon's love interest in the movie. And her character is named after Damon's girlfriend, Skylar Satenstein.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know how to pronounce her surname. But she left Matt Damon for Metallica drummer Lars Ulrich before filming began. So he named the character after his girlfriend, and then just before they start filming, she dumps him. So Damon and Driver, during Damon and Driver, so the girl that acted as his love interest in the film, became romantically involved during production. But shame, I was just like, that's hectic. I'm surprised he didn't like go and actually change the name, Yeah. And then I was interested because... So Matt Damon and Ben Affleck wrote this. They've acted in a lot of movies. Like, I was shocked how many movies. I didn't realize how many movies they've acted in together. And then I was like, have they ever written anything since? Was it kind of just like we'll write this to make us famous and then cool.
Once we're famous, then we just roll with it.
Yeah. And I know even they were on an interview with... his name's gone. Late night host.
Which one? There's so many.
Not James Corden. The one that's got the
Jimmy Kimmel.
The other one?
No, that's the only one I know.
I can't believe I forgot.
It's not Jim Gordon.
No.
Not that one. Not the British guy.
No. He's also got dark hair.
Yeah, I don't know the names of the other ones.
A lot of people confuse Jimmy Kimmel and him. I can't remember his name. Oh my goodness. But anyway, so he was even asking like why they haven't like written anything. And they actually have written something. So they then, I don't know what year it came out, but almost 2 decades later, they reunited to write the movie The Last Duel. So, and they both act in it as well. But The Last Duel was also Jimmy Fallon. Thank you. Jimmy Fallon was interviewing them. In fact, he was interviewing them after The Last Duel had just come out. And with The Last Duel, they wrote in a female writer named, her name is Nicole something. And a lot of people actually say she's a modern day Jane Austen. And Jane Austen obviously is the writer of Pride and Prejudice and all of that. So like she's a renowned writer. So it's quite a big compliment for a writer. But the whole point of The Last Duel, so Matt Damon had heard that a director, Martin Scorsese, had the rights or was wanting to make The Last Duel, but like nothing ever came out of it. And he had, I think, read the book and he was so impacted by it that he was like, you know what, I really want to make this movie. But the cool thing about The Last Duel is, I've never watched it, but they show the same story but from 3 different perspectives. So they show it from 2 knights and a female perspective. As far as I know, the 2 knights, so the one is married to the chick and the other one supposedly rapes the chick. I don't know what the story is. And then it's the last sanctioned duel in France. That's why it's called The Last Duel. And they literally fight to the death over the possible rape of one of the knight's wife. And I'm assuming the 2 knights are... I know Matt Damon is definitely one of the knights. I'm assuming Ben Affleck is the other one. But I could be wrong. Because I think Adam Driver was also in it, and he might have been the other knights. But the 3 of them then wrote The Last Duel. But it's pretty cool that they got a chick involved because they literally had two perspectives of the story were from 2 guys, and then it was from a girl. So that was pretty cool. So they wrote The Last Duel, which I wanted to watch that movie, but I never got around to it, but I do think that there are some scenes that I suppose if it's also like rape, they would be, but I am interested to see how that one played out. And then the other film that they've recently done together is a movie called Air. So Air came out this year, 2023, and the whole thing's on, the Jordans, the shoes.
Yeah. This is the big thing that you see now, especially with Ben Affleck. Ben
Affleck directed it.
I was going to say, he directed it, right?
He directed it, and Matt Damon, so they both act in it as well, but Matt Damon, as far as I could see, is the lead. So Ben Affleck cast Matt Damon to play, and Ben Affleck said it was amazing having him on set because he literally said, like, at any point the camera could turn to Matt Damon and you could just see he was involved, he was there, he was acting, even if the camera wasn't on him, like he was in his role doing his thing, so like the camera could always fall back on him type of thing because he was like a huge support to Ben Affleck. So, and I didn't know that it was directed. I've seen it and I've been like, but like the fact that I also want to watch it now because it's directed by Ben Affleck.
It's actually weird. I was actually watching interviews because he started popping up, and obviously they were doing a lot of interviews regarding this film, The Air, and even in the one show host whatever talk thing, the guy Jimmy Kimmel interviews Ben Affleck, but he's talking about the movie, so excited, and you got some good actors, and he goes through a whole lot of actors, and then he doesn't mention Matt Damon, and he's like, oh no, you're forgetting another actor. He's like, no, that's about it. He's like, no, Matt Damon. And then they do like a whole like kind of cool skit with it. And he's like, well, why not just phone me up now? And he's like, no, wait, because so the guy that's hosting it kind of gives an impression that he's not really a big fan of Matt Damon. But now you're talking to Ben Affleck, which is Matt Damon's best friend. Yeah. And like they're doing a Zoom call, and then like they even make it like freeze, and he's like, and it's like freezing on like bad parts of Matt Damon's face, because whenever a Zoom call freezes, it's like at the worst face type of thing. So, but that was on the whole Air.
Yeah. So those are 2 possible movies we could add. Yeah. But I think I really like Matt Damon. I have watched good movies with Ben Affleck. So the one that comes to mind first is The Accountants. Like I really enjoyed The Accountants with Ben Affleck.
I actually battled to remember how Ben Affleck was, because if you ever hear, watching an interview with Ben Affleck, you kind of really understand who they really are.
Yeah.
The accent that they talk with and that sort of stuff. And then, like, I was just trying to remember how The Accountant was again, how he acted, and it's 2 completely different roles.
He was very good in The Accountant. He really was very good in The Accountant, Jim. But Good Will Hunting is a very good film. I would say the only issue I had with it was number one, the swearing. But if you listen to Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in interviews, you like, oh, that's why there was so much swearing in the film, because they actually do talk like that. And then the other thing was there was quite at times there was dirty talk. They didn't ever show, so they are
like right from the beginning.
Scenes. Yeah, right.
The
from
first
the beginning.
scene straight up, I'm like.
Okay.
Volume.
Two young men writing a script together. I suppose that would be the outcome.
I wasn't expecting the words though.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah. But then, so they do have intimate scenes, but they don't show you anything graphic.
No.
So there's nothing graphic, but there is talk and there are intimate scenes. You just don't see anything. So I'd say the language was probably the biggest. Yeah. The biggest issue. Yeah.
I think the movie was rated PG. And they were asking, but why? Why can't it just be rated R? I mean, come on. And he's like, well, for it to be rated R, you have to use the F word only about 3 times. And then they were like, okay, all right, that's fine. We'll cut back. How much do we have to cut back? And they're like, only about 240 something time F words. And he's like, oh, okay. So, because I mean, like, there was a lot.
Yeah, no, there was a lot.
It's at that point where it's almost unnecessary.
Maybe if you... I feel like as an up and I don't know. Look, the film industry was also a lot different back then. Hey, like
wasn't this during the time of the whole Reservoir Dogs? That kind of thing.
No, but Quentin Tarantino, that guy. Yeah, no, and he writes his scripts.
Exactly.
But then I also know, I was watching an interview, it was quite funny. So Ben Affleck was saying one of the previous films, the film before Good Will Hunting, they were in together. They were playing, I don't know what sports team they were on, but the two of them so they played in the same movie with, it was a bunch of guys, that were young, that were on a sports team. It was one of those type movies. And one of the scenes, Ben Affleck had to have his shirt off, and he was really uncomfortable. Like he really didn't want, like he had body insecurity, and he didn't want to take his shirt off, and he also didn't want to be doing push-ups in front of the other guys because he was embarrassed. And they were laughing because they were saying in those days that was the time in Hollywood where you had to pretend you weren't vain. Like everyone, like people didn't want vain people. They wanted everyone to be humble. Whereas now they were saying like on set there's places for people to go and work out, and like they literally said like now you don't have to pretend not to be vain. Like now everyone's vain. But like back then and you actually do sort of see it in the industry, like even in the films, like people were humble. I think people were more humble back then. Now, yeah.
You kind of interview them and they're like, oh, no, really, it's just, Ben Affleck, and, we just work well together and the crew and no.
Yeah, it's all the same thing. Like you watch interviews and they're always talking about their co-star, they're just amazing.
We just had a good team,
they're
great
so down
team.
to earth and real and raw and whereas like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck really, like you can see that they already are good friends and they're not scared to rip each other off and but it was really cool. I enjoyed it.
I would say if you haven't watched this film, definitely okay.
And Robin Williams was so good in it.
He is.
It was probably one of my favorite roles for Robin Williams. Like I know I watched him he did Peter Pan, the old Peter Pan. Robin Williams, he's done so much. But this role, I really, really enjoyed him.
Yeah.
I enjoyed him in it. Yeah. No, it was good. It was very good. So if you've not watched Good Will Hunting, go watch. The fact that they used his name, Will Hunting is the character's name. And then I didn't see it coming. Oh, just a last piece of trivia. I don't know if you picked this up. In the beginning of the movie, so Matt Damon's character's name is Will Hunting, and he's a janitor. But on his janitor uniform, guess what the name tag is? Bob. I'm not even joking. I still thought, his name's Bob. And then I forgot about it as the film went on because you obviously hear his name.
Yeah.
And only in doing research, I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, flip. He did have a Bob name tag. He literally had a Bob name tag on his janitor clothing, which is quite funny.
If you missed that one.
Sorry. Now you know. Now you can go back and watch it.
You see?
Yeah.
Go watch that. Go check it out. And sadly, don't watch with your kids.
Yeah, sadly. Anyway, this has been the movie show
on your favorite ORSPS.
Until next week,
we'll be back.
Peace.
Cheers.